Manipulation does not work on people who cannot be triggered. Most manipulation, whether in a boardroom, a negotiation, a difficult conversation, or a social dynamic, works by activating something: urgency, fear, the need to be liked, the discomfort of silence, the anxiety of being misread. These are not weaknesses unique to certain people. They are human defaults, and they are reliable entry points for anyone who wants to move you in a direction you did not choose. Calm professionals are difficult to manipulate, not because they are immune to pressure, but because the triggers that pressure depends on simply do not function the same way in them. Remove the trigger, remove the leverage. That is what calm does. The problem is that most professionals operate in a state of low-level reactivity most of the time. Not panic, not crisis, just a baseline sensitivity to how they are perceived, whether they are keeping up, whether they are moving fast enough, whether the people around them approve of what they are doing. That baseline reactivity is invisible. Most of the time, it feels normal because it is normal for most people, but it creates a structural vulnerability. Anyone who understands that baseline can use it. Create a little urgency and watch the decision accelerate, withhold approval, and watch the behavior shifts. Hold silence and watch the other person fill in with concession. These are not sophisticated techniques. They work because most people have never examined their own triggers, let alone remove them. Calm professionals have. Not always consciously, but the practice of remaining calm under pressure is also quietly the practice of identifying and neutralizing what moves you. Here is the free frame worth sitting with. Most people think of resistance to manipulation as a kind of armor, something you put on to protect yourself, a defense mechanism that activates when you sense pressure coming. Calm does not work like that. Calm doesn't protect you from triggers. It removes from the target entirely. When the urgency triggers fires and you genuinely do not feel urgency, there is nothing to hit. When the approval trigger activates and you genuinely do not need the room's approval, the leverage does not exist. This is a fundamentally different position to be in. Armor can be worn down. It requires energy to maintain. It signals that there is something worth protecting underneath, and sophisticated pressure will eventually find the gaps. A removed target requires none of that. There is no energy cost, no signal of vulnerability, no gap to find. This is why calm is not just composure. It is a structural advantage in any interaction where someone wants to move you without your consent, and those interactions are more common than most professionals acknowledge. The first trigger calm removes is urgency. Urgency is almost always manufactured. Real urgency, the kind that genuinely requires immediate action, exists, but it is far rarer than the urgency most professionals operate under daily. Most urgency is a signal designed to compress your thinking, to get you to decide before you have processed. To prevent this kind of slow, clear consideration that tends to produce better outcomes. Deadlines that appear suddenly, opportunities framed as disappearing, pressure applied just before a decision point. These are not coincidences, they are techniques used consciously or not, to get a faster response than the situation actually requires. Calm professionals recognize urgency before it lands, not because they are suspicious, but because they have developed the habit of asking one question before responding to any pressure. Is this urgency real or is it created? That single question neutralizes most manufactured urgency immediately. It restores a thinking space that urgency was designed to compress. And once you have that space back, you make a different decision. Usually a better one and always a less manipulated one. The second trigger calm removes is the need for approval. This one is subtle and more pervasive. Most professionals are not consciously seeking approval. They would not describe themselves as people pleasers, but the sensitivity is there in how they adjust their position when someone pushes back, in how they soften their language when the room goes quiet, in how they change direction when they sense disapproval. Approval seeking is not weakness. It is social wiring. The problem is that it creates a lever that anyone can pull. Withhold warmth and watch behavior shifts. Express disappointment and watch concession appear. Signal that you are unimpressed and watch someone work harder to change your mind. Calm professionals are not indifferent to others, but they have separated their sense of direction from others' reactions to it. They can observe disapproval without changing course. They can sit with someone's dissatisfaction without resolving it prematurely. That separation is not arrogance, it is clarity. They know what they think. They know what they are doing, and they do not need the room to confirm it before they process. That makes the approval trigger essentially inert. The third trigger, and the one that reveals the most, is silence. Most people cannot sit with silence in high-stakes interaction. The discomfort builds quickly. And in that discomfort, they talk, they explain, they soften their position, they fill the space with information they had not planned to share. Silence, used deliberately, is one of the most effective pressure tools available. It costs us nothing, it requires no argument, and it attracts more than most direct question ever would. Calm professionals are comfortable with silence in a way that most people are not. Not because they are cold or detached, but because they have spent enough time in their own thinking that the absence of external noise does not create anxiety. They can let silence sit. They can observe what the other person does with it. They can wait for the pattern to emerge before they respond. And when they do respond, it is from a position of having seen more than the other person realized they were revealing. Silence is not awkward for calm people. It is information, and they collect it while everyone else is trying to end it. So here is what we have covered. 3 triggers that manipulation depends on: urgency, approval, and silence, and how calm professionals neutralize each one, not through resistance, but through genuine absence of the vulnerability those triggers require. Urgency loses its compression when you have the habit of questioning whether it is real. Approval loses its leverage when your direction doesn't depend on the room's reaction to it. Silence loses its discomfort when you are genuinely at ease in your own thinking. Remove the triggers and you remove the vulnerability. Not perfectly and not permanently. These are practices, not states, but consistently enough that operating around a calm professional becomes a fundamentally different experience. for anyone trying to move them. This is not something you perform. It is something you build through the same quiet, consistent practice that builds everything else worth having. Calm, applied over time, makes you genuinely harder to move. And that is more durable advantage than almost anything else you could develop. If this resonated, if you recognize the triggers we covered and what to start building, the kind of authority that does not depend on performance or approval, there is a free resource in the description below. It is built specifically for professionals like you, quiet, capable people who want to grow on their own terms without noise, without hype, and without becoming someone they are not. The link is below. Take your time with it. There is no urgency here. And if you have been paying attention, you already know that is deliberate.